I couldn't move. My body was limp, heavy, like I'd sunk through the floor. My mind was awake, but everything else was shutting down. My son, Eli, lay beside me, motionless. I could barely make out his face in my blurred vision, but I knew he was still breathing, and then I heard it. My husband, Jared, standing just a few feet away, whispered something so cold it sent a deeper chill through my bones than anything I'd ever felt. It's done. They'll both be gone soon. Gone. I wasn't supposed to hear that. I wasn't supposed to be alive to hear that. As the sound of his footsteps faded down the hallway, I fought every urge to sit up and scream. Instead, I leaned close to Eli's ear and whispered, "Don't move yet." I don't know how I stayed calm in that moment. I think it was the years I spent as a nurse, or maybe it was just the primal instinct of a mother trying to save her child. But something told me, don't panic, stay still and wait, because something was very wrong. Let me take you back just a few hours before that moment, the last time things felt somewhat normal, if you could call our life normal anymore. I'm Naomi. I'm 38 years old, a mom, and until recently, a wife. I gave up my nursing career when Eli was born to raise him full-time. He's my entire world, curious, smart, and always watching everything I do. We've been a team since day one. Jared, my husband of 12 years, used to be the funny one, charming, the kind of guy who made people feel special, even strangers. But somewhere along the way, that charm faded into silence. Then came the late nights, the secret phone calls, the strange absences with weak excuses. Still, I held on, for Eli, for the life we built, for the hope that maybe the man I married was still in there somewhere. So when Jared said he wanted to cook dinner for us, a rare thing, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was trying again, trying to be present, to connect. He said he had a special recipe he wanted to try. Steak, mashed potatoes, green beans, simple but comforting. Eli was excited. He loved when Jared made an effort, no matter how small. We sat at the table. The food smelled, okay, a little off, but I didn't say anything. Jared was watching us, smiling more than usual, almost too much. I took a few bites. Eli did too. That's when I felt the first wave, lightheadedness, the room spinning just slightly. My mouth went dry, my stomach turned. I looked at Eli. He was rubbing his eyes, blinking slowly. He whispered, "Mom, my tummy hurts." That was the moment I knew something was horribly wrong. I remember thinking, this is not food poisoning. This is something else. Then everything went dark, except my thoughts, except my instinct. I collapsed beside my son and did the only thing I could think to do, pretend. I lay there completely still, listening. And that's when I heard Jared's voice. It's done. They'll both be gone soon. Gone. Those words will echo in my mind for the rest of my life. What happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. If you asked me a year ago, I would have told you my life was boring, in the best way. We lived in a quiet neighborhood just outside Atlanta, one of those places where people wave when you drive by and the mailman knows your dog's name. Our house wasn't fancy, but it was warm, safe. Or at least, I thought it was. I spent most of my time at home with Eli. He's 11, sharp as a tack and way too observant for his age. He always asks a million questions, wants to know why things happen, how things work. I used to joke that he was my little scientist. He'd follow me everywhere, mimicked everything I did, how I stirred my coffee, how I folded the laundry, even the way I hummed to myself when I was thinking. Being his mom is the one thing I've never questioned. I may not have had a big career or fancy degrees like Jared, but I had Eli, and he made my life full. Jared and I met when I was 25. He was tall, quick-witted, charming. The kind of guy who made you feel like the center of the universe when he looked at you. He was working in finance, already making good money, and he had this way of taking charge in a room. Confident, but not cocky. At least not back then. We got married within a year. And at first, he really was amazing. The kind of husband everyone said I was lucky to have. He surprised me with flowers, wrote notes on sticky pads, made playlists for long drives. When Eli was born, he cried harder than I did. I remember thinking, this is the man I'll grow old with. We're going to build a beautiful life. But time changes people. Somewhere in the last 2 years, something in Jared started to shift. At first, it was little things. He stopped joining us for family movie nights. He stopped laughing at Eli's jokes. He stopped kissing me on the forehead before leaving for work. I told myself it was stress. His job was intense, long hours, demanding clients. I figured he just needed space. But then came the locked phone, the whispered calls behind closed doors, the way he'd leave the house without saying where he was going or when he'd be back. I asked questions. He got defensive, said I was being paranoid, controlling. So I stopped asking. I went quiet too. For Eli's sake, I kept things smooth on the surface. Smiles at dinner, small talk, the illusion of normal. And then, just last week, something strange happened. Jared came home early, earlier than he had in months, and for the first time in a long time. He looked relaxed. He kissed Eli on the head, looked me in the eye, and said, "I'm cooking dinner tonight." I blinked. "Since when do you cook?" He shrugged. "Just wanted to do something nice. You've been working so hard lately." It was such a small thing, but it felt huge. Suspicious, even. But at the same time, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that maybe, after everything, he was trying to come back to us. So I smiled. I told him that sounded wonderful. That night, I set the table with the good plates. Eli picked out music to play while we ate. Jared was in the kitchen, humming to himself while stirring the mashed potatoes. It almost felt normal again. Almost. But in the pit of my stomach, something was off. A quiet whisper of instinct I didn't know I'd need to listen to until it was nearly too late. I remember watching Jared that night standing over the stove, stirring the mashed potatoes like it was something he did every day. But he didn't. Jared had never cooked a full meal. Not in the 12 years we were married. Not once. So yes, I was surprised. But more than anything, I was trying to convince myself this was a good sign. A fresh start. I wanted it to be. Dinner was served around 6. Eli had set the table, putting out the mismatched cloth napkins he thought were fancy. He was excited. His dad was finally doing something just for us, something normal. The food looked fine. Steak, a little overcooked, green beans with too much garlic. But it was the mashed potatoes that stuck out. They looked off. Too smooth, too shiny. I don't know how else to describe it. I took a bite. The texture was strange, too creamy, almost like glue. The taste wasn't bad, but there was a bitterness under the butter. I pushed the fork aside and reached for my water, swallowing hard. Eli took a few bites, too. I watched him. He made a face, but kept eating. Jared was watching us, saying very little, just sitting there, smiling. I remember saying, "These potatoes taste a little funny." And Jared, he laughed, said something like, "Guess I'm not as good a cook as I thought." Then he stood up and started clearing his plate, before he'd even finished eating. That's when I felt it. The dizziness started in waves, not the kind that comes from standing up too fast, but the kind that made the room tilt sideways. My fingers went numb. My throat felt dry, thick. I blinked, trying to steady myself. Across the table, Eli had gone quiet. He was rubbing his stomach, eyes wide. His little fork clattered to the plate. He looked at me and whispered, "Mom, my tummy hurts." That moment is burned into my memory, the way he looked so confused, like he knew something was wrong but didn't know how to say it. My instincts took over. I reached for him, but my arm wouldn't move right. My muscles weren't responding. My vision started to blur around the edges. I could barely keep my eyes open. And Jared, he wasn't rushing over to help. He wasn't panicked. He was just standing there at the sink, scrubbing his hands slowly, like he was washing something away. I knew. Something was terribly wrong. My heart started pounding, even as my body was failing me. I realized I couldn't speak, couldn't call for help, but my mind was clear, and one word echoed louder than everything else. Protect Eli. I looked at my son. He was slumping in his chair. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I grabbed him, gently, and guided him to the floor beside me as I collapsed, pretending to pass out. I pressed his small hand under mine and gave the tiniest squeeze I could manage, just enough for him to feel it. Then we lay there. Still. Silent. That's when Jared walked back into the room, and I heard it. It's done. They'll both be gone soon. My blood ran cold. There was no panic in his voice, no sadness, just calm finality, like this was a task he'd completed, like we were never more than boxes on a to-do list. I fought every instinct to sit up, to scream, to run. But I stayed still. And when I heard him walk out of the room, I leaned close to my son and whispered, "Don't move yet." I didn't know how long we lay there. It could have been 30 seconds or 3 minutes. Time becomes strange when you're terrified and paralyzed. All I could hear was my own pulse hammering in my ears, and Eli's breathing. Then came the sound of Jared's footsteps retreating down the hallway, unhurried, deliberate. He paused near the door, I think. Then I heard it. Click. The front door closed. He was gone. I opened my eyes just a crack, afraid of what I might see. The kitchen was empty. I gently pressed my hand against Eli's back. He tensed but didn't move. He was awake. He'd heard everything, too. "Bathroom," I whispered. "Go, spit, throw up if you can." He blinked at me, scared but understanding. Eli might only be 11, but he's so smart. He crawled toward the hallway with shaky limbs. I followed, dragging my legs behind me like they were sandbags. We made it to the guest bathroom. I turned on the tap, kept the water running loud, just in case Jared came back. Then I leaned over the sink and forced myself to vomit. Everything. I dug my fingers down my throat, desperate to purge whatever he had given us. Eli did the same, tears streaming down his cheeks, coughing, gagging, but he got it out. It was working. Slowly. My head was still foggy, but I could think. Move. My breathing was tight, but no longer fading. I sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the cabinet, holding Eli's hand. "Mom," he whispered. "Why would he do that?" I couldn't answer. Not yet. We had to get out. I tried to call 911, but my phone was dead. Not low battery. Dead. No response, no restart screen. It had been working that morning. I checked the wall phone. Line dead. That's when I realized Jared had planned this, thoroughly. "No time," I said. "We go now." I grabbed the emergency flashlight from under the sink, wrapped Eli in my hoodie, and led him through the laundry room into the garage. I had to be quiet. We both did. I didn't know if Jared had really left or if he was watching from the car or hiding outside. I opened the garage door manually. It groaned loud enough to make my heart stop. I peeked out. No car in the driveway, no one on the street, just the empty hush of evening. "Go," I whispered, "to Miss Laverne's. Now." Eli ran barefoot across the lawn toward our neighbor's house. Miss Laverne had lived there for 20 years. She was in her 70s, tough as nails, and always home. I hobbled after him, my legs still jelly, my vision swimming. By the time I reached the door, Eli was pounding on it. She opened it fast, surprised, but one look at us and she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" She gasped. "No time. Call 911, I managed to say. "He poisoned us. My husband, he tried to kill us." The look on her face changed from shock to action. She pulled us inside, locked the door, and grabbed her phone. Within 5 minutes, I could hear the sirens, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself breathe. We were still alive, but this was far from over. The ambulance lights flashed against the walls like red lightning as the paramedics rushed us out of Ms. Laverne's house. Eli was trembling under the emergency blanket they'd wrapped him in, holding onto my hand like he thought I might disappear. My body was still fighting to stabilize. My vision was sharp 1 second, swimming the next, but I was conscious, alive. And so was Eli. That was all that mattered in that moment. At the hospital, they ran tests immediately. Blood work, toxicology screens, vitals. Nurses moved fast. I knew that speed. I used to move like that when I was the one wearing scrubs. The doctor came in with the results within the hour. "It was a sedative," he said, "crushed and mixed into the food. Probably benzodiazepine. Very high dosage. You were lucky you vomited it out when you did." Lucky. That's what they all kept saying. But this wasn't luck. It was deliberate. And not just what he did, but what I did. The whisper to Eli, the bathroom, the escape. That was instinct. That was survival. When the officer arrived to take my statement, I told him everything, word for word, step by step. Then I asked, "Did they find him?" The officer's jaw tightened. "He's not at the house. The car's gone. We've issued a statewide alert." I felt my stomach drop again, not from poison this time, but from the sickening possibility that he could get away with this, that he might disappear and leave us always looking over our shoulders. But then, less than 48 hours later, they caught him. At the airport, trying to board a flight to Belize with a fake passport and a second phone. He hadn't just poisoned us and run. He had planned this for weeks, maybe longer, and it wasn't until my sister Alina flew in that the final puzzle piece slid into place. We were sitting in the hospital room, Eli finally asleep in the bed next to me. Alina leaned forward with this look on her face, part disbelief, part heartbreak. "I didn't want to say anything," she whispered. "But Naomi, Jared's been cheating. I've known for 2 months." I just stared at her. She went on. "I saw him, with a woman, young, maybe 25. They were at that restaurant by Midtown. He kissed her. I followed them. They went back to a condo. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure what to do. I thought maybe he was just having a crisis." A crisis? Number, this was never just an affair. This was an exit strategy, and it got worse. That woman? Turns out she came from a wealthy family. Her father had passed away recently. She was set to inherit a sizable fortune, but only if she married someone with no children and no prior debts. Jared then was trying to create that version of himself, free of a wife, free of a son, free to start over. The poisoning, the fake documents, the airport escape, it all made sense now. He wasn't just trying to leave us, he was trying to erase us. They charged Jared with attempted murder, felony child endangerment, and use of a controlled substance with intent to cause harm. He pled not guilty at first, until the evidence was stacked too high to climb out of. He's now serving life in prison, with no chance of parole. And me? I'm still putting the pieces back together. But the truth? I'd rather live in broken pieces than in a perfect lie. I wake up every morning with a different kind of gratitude now, not for the big things, like second chances or justice or revenge, but for the small ones, like the sound of Eli laughing in the other room, or the quiet click of the front door locking at night, the warmth of sunlight through the kitchen window as I make coffee in a house where I know we are safe. It's been 3 months since the night everything fell apart. 3 months since I collapsed on the kitchen floor next to my son. 3 months since I heard my husband, Jared, whisper that we'd be gone soon. It's surreal to say those words out loud. Even now, it doesn't feel real. But it was, and we're still here. Eli and I both made full physical recoveries. Doctors said the sedative dosage was dangerously high, meant to mimic an accidental overdose, something that could be explained away, dismissed. If we hadn't thrown it up in time, we might not be here to tell this story. That thought follows me like a shadow. Eli doesn't talk about his dad much. Sometimes I catch him staring out the window, quiet, lost in his thoughts. Other times, he'll crawl into my bed in the middle of the night just to be near me. I don't push him to talk. I let him lead. He's healing in his own way. So am I. We're living with my sister Alina for now. She's been our anchor, and despite the guilt she felt for not telling me about Jared's affair sooner, I never once blamed her. Because here's the truth. We all miss things we don't want to see. I didn't want to believe Jared was capable of hurting us. That the man I married, the father of my child, was planning our erasure like it was a business move. But he was. The motive was as cold as the act. Money, image, a future that didn't include us. He pled guilty in the end. There was too much evidence to fight. The poisoning, the fake ID, the plane ticket, the bank transfers. He's now serving life without parole. And while I can't say I found peace yet, I found something more important: clarity. People always ask me what I learned from this, what I'd say to other women or anyone in a situation like mine. So here it is. Listen to your instincts, even when they whisper, even when they don't come with proof. We're taught to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes, doubt is the benefit. When your body tells you something is wrong, believe it. When your gut clenches without explanation, pay attention. When you feel the air shift in a room, the mood darken, the silence stretch, that's your warning. I ignored it for too long. I let fear of confrontation be louder than fear of danger. Never again. The night Jared tried to poison us, my survival didn't come from strength. It didn't come from training. It came from stillness, from listening, from not moving until the time was right. That small, quiet decision saved my life, and it saved my son. Now, every day is a new chance to protect him the way I couldn't before, not just from harm, but from silence, from doubt, from believing that love means ignoring your own voice, because real love, the kind that lasts, never puts you in danger. It never makes you question your worth, and it never, ever comes with poison. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. This story wasn't easy to tell, but I hope it reaches someone who needs it, someone who's ignoring their gut, someone who's afraid to open their eyes, someone who just needed a reminder, you are not crazy, you are not alone, and your voice matters. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Whether it's your thoughts, your own experience, or just a message of support, it helps more than you know. And if you think someone needs to hear this, please share the video. You never know who it might save. Like the video if you found it powerful. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more real stories, raw truths, and reminders that survival is strength. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and never stop listening to your instincts.